Hey guys, it's Holly. So today I wanted to go through all of the different Spider-Man sets as well as sort of briefly touch on the Tumbler. So basically every superhero set that released in October, because there have been so many sets this year, so many good sets as well. And people just don't have the money at this point in the year, especially with Christmas around the corner. People are trying to save. So I wanted to talk through everything and really tell you guys which sets are the best and which ones you should actually get out of this little wave. While they're all relatively small sets, I still feel like it would be a good idea just in case you can only afford to get one or two, or maybe you can only get one now and maybe you'll buy the rest later. And I think with these sets in particular, they all shine in very different areas. So the different areas that I really want to consider when sort of talking about all of these sets are these four things. First up are the minifigures. I'm a really big minifigure collector. A lot of the time I'll buy sets if it has really good minifigures. I love me a good build as well, but I'm a really big figure person, so that's a really big point, at least for me personally. The second one is going to be overall build. Was the build process good? Is the overall result good? Does it sort of stay really stable? Is it unique? Is it different? The next one is going to be display ability, which is a really big one for me. I'm not one that typically plays with their Lego sets anymore. I'm a really big fan of just, does it display nice? Can I make it look cool? Can I have like a diorama populated with figures? So that's something, at least for me, that I really care about. And then the last one is going to be playability, because people play with their Lego sets. Is it something that you can really play with a lot, or is it just better to just sort of sit there and do nothing? So starting off with the smallest one, we have Spider-Man versus Mysterio's drone attack. Now this one is relatively cheap. It's $20 US or 32 Australian, or maybe it's 33. And I feel like, first up, for the minifigures, this set is amazing. Honestly, in my review, I called it a glorified minifigure pack because the figures are just amazing, but because it's a 4+ set, the build is weak. For a 4-year-old, amazing. I imagine this is going to be probably very good. But for someone like myself, yeah, I don't really care, especially since I can't really use the pieces for many other things either. So for minifigures, I really feel like this one is a must get. 2 of them are exclusive, and Nick Fury is quite hard to get a hold of. He's typically only in more expensive sets, though this is a really big winner in that regard. Build-wise, however, it's a 4+ set. There's really not that much to it. It wasn't an enjoyable experience because of that. It's a set for its age group, and it shows with this. The build was just, it's not great. Even the drone, I felt quite let down by. Displayability, I would not display this ever. In fact, I'm going to break it down and just chuck it into a plastic box. I literally just bought this set for the figures, in my opinion. I don't really see anyone else that would display this either, so that gets a big fat 0. And then lastly, playability. I can see kids playing around with this. Firstly, you get a car, which are always fun to just yeet across a table. I've done that personally myself. And then the drone itself does shoot the little 2x2 discs quite violently, I will add, so definitely watch out for other people when doing that. And while the build sucks and while the displayability sucks, honestly, I think this has to be one of the better sets out of the entire wave, at least if you're a minifigure collector. If you care more about the builds than you do figures, I would definitely go for a different set. But if you're like me and you really just want the figures, or you want something to play around with, this is a pretty good option. Next up, at the exact same price point, is SpiderMan's Drone Jaw. And this one, firstly, you get a lot more pieces. So instantly for build, you're off to a great start here. But just like that 4+ set, I personally bought it for the minifigures. This one, again, has 2 exclusive figures. However, you only get 2 in this set. You don't get a third. Now, for what it is, the Vulture's wings work. I just feel like they're incredibly thin, and I feel like they need to be a bit more bulky, especially to match these giant fans at the bottom. Even this back piece looks incredibly long. I mean, it works for what it is, but I feel like it could have been done better. And at the end of the day, this is the part of the build that I personally care about. Because the remaining part of this set is this weird drone. Basically, it's a giant Spider-Man Mavic drone. It shoots 4K footage. I wish it did. It would honestly add a lot to this set. The color scheme is really good. It feels really robust for what it is. And just, like I said, for what it is, it works. But I just don't care about this. I'm not a person that typically cares for just random Spider-Man vehicles. I'm not a huge fan. Spider-Man can fit inside it, which is a big plus. However, the build is a lot better than the 4+ build, so I will give it that, but I still don't feel like it was that interesting. The build process was relatively simple and kind of boring, honestly, so Displayability though, I mean, it works if you've got like stands or like things to prop these things up on. I feel like it's really good. Like if you've got Wicked Brick or I Display It like stands like I sort of had in my review, I think you're off to a winner here with displayability. But again, I don't think this is a very like great looking vehicle. I mean, it's all right, but I feel like there are just better looking Spider-Man vehicles. Even some of the weirder ones I feel like look better than this. And lastly is playability. There's honestly not that many features. I mean, the Vulture's wings can sort of flap up and down because they're quite heavy, so you can do this and he can fly. This is a horrible play feature. And then the Spider Drone, really again, not a lot. You've got this golden string for Spider-Man to jump on, and then at the back there's like this little spider drone and some stud shooters, but that's really it. There's no amazing or exciting play features. You could swoosh this thing around, but as a kid, I feel like I wouldn't get too much enjoyment out of this personally. Yeah. As cool as the figures are in this set though, I honestly feel like I would lean more towards the 4+ set because you get 3 figures. The builds, while they're a lot more enjoyable than the 4+ set in this one, I don't think it's enough for me to sort of lean for this one over the 4+ set, which is, I feel like, ridiculous considering 4+ sets are typically known to be very overpriced, the builds are boring, you can't reuse the parts, whereas you can with this. I literally bought it for Vulture's wings, and even then I feel like I'm not overall that impressed. And lastly, out of the Spider-Man sets, we have Spider-Man at the Sanctum Workshop, and I feel like this is the one that most people go to. Again, people want the figures, but also just the fact that the build's a bit more exciting, and also it's the only set that's actually truly inspired by No Way Home. The other ones, I have my theories over, but they always say inspired by Far From Home, inspired by Homecoming, whereas this one actually says No Way Home and doesn't have an inspired bubble. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that this is the set that I was most looking forward to. Again, a lot of it for the figures, but also the build just looks the most interesting to me, which is why I sort of lent more towards it. Now, in terms of minifigures, all 4 of them are exclusive. However, MJ is made up of existing parts, so you can technically make her yourself. There's nothing really exclusive or special. At least that combination is technically exclusive. You also get Doctor Strange with a brand new sort of rubberized cape. So minifigures, again, amazing. All of these Spider-Man sets have incredible figures, which I personally, as a minifigure fan, absolutely love. However, build, I don't know, it's nothing that particularly wowed me. I really liked this little monster. I loved the build of him. I thought he was really cool. He looks really sick, but the actual sanctum itself underwhelmed me. It's very open. It's very empty. It's just a sort of background or a facade. I love the sort of the reference to the little, what I presume to be the dark cave where Doctor Strange is casting the spells. And there's a lot of cool little knickknacks and parts. I feel like this is just a nice parts pack. Which then leads me on to displayability. It's a little vignette. You can create a scene with this, but I feel like it's got such an awkward shape considering you've got this giant bit sticking out of the back, and it's also quite wide. So it might be quite hard to fit on a shelf, or at least take up a lot of unnecessary space that I feel like it didn't really need to. And then lastly, we have playability, and again, I really don't think any of these sets really prioritize that. In fact, you literally look at the back of the box and there is no play features. It's only just showing you sort of the back of the set. And it just feels like a real shame to me. I feel like this set really could have benefited from some sort of like hinge or lever or I don't know, just anything. The fact that it's got none for playability is quite sad. Now, that doesn't mean you can't play with it. I used to use my sets a lot like a dollhouse and just sort of pick up the minifigures and move them around, and you can do that with this set. You can do that with all of these sets, especially this one since it is more of a vignette diorama type of thing, but it would still be nice to at least have just one play feature. So again, this one disappointed me, and I feel like honestly, out of all of the Spider-Man sets, I feel like you have to go between these two, and for me at least, it's a matter of which set of figures do you prefer. I think they're both fantastic. If you definitely care more about a build, I think it's going to be the Sanctum, because just the build isn't here with this one. Value-wise though, I kind of leaning more towards the 4+ set. I feel like you get sort of more for your money, and that's saying a lot considering the build of this is horrible. And then last thing I said I wanted to touch on is actually the Batman Tumbler. I mean, it's a superhero set. While it's not Marvel, it's from the Dark Knight instead. I still wanted to really mention this because this is a set that also came out. It's relatively small yet again. And if in general you are just a superheroes fan and are looking for a superhero set, this is the one you have to get. The figures, again, are amazing. I mean, they're not as good as the Spider-Man ones in my opinion, but they are still incredible figures. But the build for this one has so much more substance than all three of the Spider-Man sets combined. Now, firstly, thank you to everyone telling me that I built the Tumbler wrong. I built it on stream, so I was quite distracted, and I fixed it now. Apart from the wheels, I still need to change that. But just this set is so well built. I had an amazing time building it. The build experience was so much fun. There were a lot of sort of unique tips and sort of build techniques that were used in it, which I really like. There's an actual full interior, and just the overall design looks incredibly sort of set accurate, and its condensed size means you can display it. It's a car, it means you can play with it, and I feel like this passes sort of this little criteria that I've made with flying colors. So if you're in the market for a superhero set, there is no sort of other option. I feel like just get the Tumbler. If you can only buy one and you're a superheroes fan, just get the Tumbler. However, if you are exclusively looking for just Marvel or just Spider-Man, I feel like if you're a minifigure collector and that's all you really care about, I would personally get the 4+ set, just because, you know, Nick Fury is a really big character in the MCU. I think it's amazing. New Mysterio, upgraded suit Spider-Man. That is a figure that people have been wanting for ages. I feel like if you're just after the minifigures, get the 4+ set. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. If you are here exclusively for the build, while it's not amazing, the Sanctum is the one for you. The monster sort of makes up for it. I mean, this vignette sort of scene is all right. You get a lot of knickknacks, which is fun. You can also sort of place it afterwards, but there's just more to build, which is good, although it's not a particularly interesting build. However, I did enjoy it more than the Vulture set. For displayability with Spider-Man, again, I would have to go with the Sanctum, even though it's a very odd shape. Just the fact that you can pose the figures around and create a scene. For me personally, that's something I love doing. That's a really big win for me. I think I have to go with this. And then if you were looking something just to play around with, I feel like the Vulture set is for you. You can swoosh the figures, you can have them battling. While there's not really many play features, I mean, then again, neither of these sets really have a ton of play features besides the 4+ one. I think play-wise, this is going to get you a lot more fun than that 4+ one, and that's what I would go for. So that is sort of my wave overview from all of the Spider-Man sets, as well as a bit from the Tumbler there for you guys. But let me know your thoughts on all of these sets and which ones you plan on buying. If you can only get one, or are you gonna get the entire wave, let me know. And if you haven't already, check out my reviews of each of these sets individually. I'll leave the sort of Marvel playlist linked at the end here. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time, I'll see you later.